Hello, everybody, and welcome to reacting to woke TikToks. It's gonna be an interesting journey. Um, let's jump into it. I haven't seen these prior, so you're gonna get my raw reaction here. Goodness, that's pink hair.
Can we talk about how it's actually horrifying that the Kardashians went out of their way to have kids with black men just so that they could have a closer proximity to black
I highly
culture?
doubt that.
Just so that when you call them out on appropriating black culture, they bring up their proximity to black people and their half black children. They bred their children like dogs. And as a
Bold
black woman,
claim.
you cannot change my opinion on this, and I know a lot of other black women and mixed black women feel the same way. That eventually, at some point in their life, these kids will grow up and realize that one of the main reasons their parents had them is so that they could have a closer proximity to black culture.
I doubt
It's going to
that.
be a horrifying moment for those kids.
This behind me is St George's Wharf in London. This pathway that I'm on is public space, but this park, if you can call that a park, isn't. It is for the use of the residents only, but as you can see, there are no residents in the park because it's a shit park. And yet, I can guarantee that this park fulfills perfectly its role. It adds value to the surrounding properties, not by providing a pleasant space for the residents, but by asserting the exclusiveness of this complex. The only function of this area is to be a marker of social segregation. It makes the residents feel superior, and it sends the message to everyone else that they're not worthy of that space.
This is not social segregation. It has everything to do with their property owners, so they have certain perks as established by the company or the organization that owns the apartment complex. People are, they're grasping. They're trying to find things to be triggered about.
Does it matter?
Oh, it doesn't matter to you. But to me, I'm a male. Okay?
Okay.
So, what are you? So I can call you sir or ma'am. What are you?
What would you assume looking at me?
What are you?
What would you assume looking at me?
I assume that you're a man. Okay? Okay?
Thank you. Whatever.
How is it aggressively transphobic to ask what you want to be referred to as? And he's all offended because he's playing dress up and the guy is just... People are too sensitive nowadays.
Many people ask me, how do you use they, them pronouns for a singular person? Well, it's really easy. All you have to do is use it the same way that you would talk about a group of people. So, for example, I, Addison, use they, them pronouns. In that case, you talk about me like this. I know Addison. They are amazing. Their dress and their hair are amazing. And I'm so proud to know them. Now, a fun fact about they, them pronouns is that they've been used in a singular context for centuries. Even going back to Shakespearean times, there's actual documentation in literature using they and them in singular contexts. But if that still doesn't convince you to use they, them pronoun, I'll leave you with this piece of information. Our language is constantly changing and adapting. We're evolving to find new terms and language to self-identify. So get with the times. Don't be an asshole.
No. I choose to stick to my morals and my belief that I'm not going to feed into the delusion that society is in today. So, no.
I got cornered by 3 of my 6th grade students at lunch today, and they came up to me all excited. They were like, Miss Collins, what's your sexuality? And I said, why do you need to know that right now? And they were like, oh, I don't know. I just think you'd be like a super fun, like, bi or pan person. And I said, well, I don't really know how much I'm allowed to talk about this to students, but does looking at my shoelaces help? And these kids just flipped out. They were so excited.
Two, three. I wear a mask to school. I wear a mask to school. Hi ho the Dario, I wear a mask to school. It helps to keep me safe. It helps to
Come on, guys. This is. I feel like I'm watching a cult initiation.
keep me safe. Hi ho the Dario, it helps to keep me safe. It keeps my friends safe. It keeps my friends safe. Hi ho the Dario, it keeps my friends safe.
No. Just no.
And let me see a hooray! Put your
None of those children want to be there. In the slightest.
hands up in the air!
So I came out as non-binary a little over a year ago.
When I started interviewing for jobs, I was still in the closet about my gender identity. I was also dating a guy at the time and was afraid to come out because he was straight. Well, that relationship ended, and after I got a job and moved out to Seattle, and after I saw how accepting my district was, I finally became open about being non-binary. I do get a lot of questions from students at the beginning of the semester, and I just answer those very honestly. When we do class introductions, I have everyone include their pronouns, and I talk about why it matters. And I always encourage students to ask questions if they don't quite understand, because I know to a lot of those students, I'm probably the first non-binary teacher they've ever had. I always assume good intent with my students, so if someone makes a joke or cracks a comment, then I use it as an opportunity to educate them. Patience and love are key.
I will never be sending my children to public school purely because of these people.
To the baristas at my Starbucks, I am so sorry that I strolled in without having a mask on, even though the mask mandate was lifted and I am fully vaccinated, because you don't know me. You don't know that about me. I apologize. To the man at Starbucks who got offended when I yelled, "Oh my God, I'm not a fucking Republican. I'm so sorry. I believe in science." I'm not sorry.
Why do you have to be so loud? Who cares? Like, just keep to yourself.
To my mom, who I was on the phone with, I'm sorry I said fucking.
I am so tired of catering to cis people's feelings.
I'm tired of catering to people with active delusions. So.
Because I do. I do it every time I go to a restaurant and the server says, "Hi, ladies," and I don't correct them. Every time I choose the women's washroom because people expect that of me and it makes them comfortable. Every time I go to the grocery store and ignore being called miss or ma'am. Every time a close friend misgenders me and my immediate response is to say, "No, it's okay as long as you're trying." It's not okay. And I'm not okay, because in order for any of you to even entertain the idea of respecting my existence, I have to water down all of my emotions lest I live up to the whiny crybabies trans stereotype that you all have in your heads.
And as a Christian, and many Christians are told that they need to water it down and not speak from scripture because it isolates, and makes gay people and trans people feel like they're not welcome. It's almost like that's the point, and they're living in sin, and we're supposed to call that out as Christians? Wow.
You can't handle the truth!
Because God forbid you take someone seriously when they are showing valid emotion.
I hate that straight people have taken the incredibly complex and nuanced thing that is the queer experience and stolen it, oversimplified it, bastardized it, commodified it, and then they try to straight-splain it back to us as if they know more about it than we do. I hate that we have to make ourselves either entirely invisible or shove our identities into neat little stereotypes that they can easily digest in order for them to take us seriously. I hate having to infantilize and handhold straight people constantly in order to reduce the chances of a temper tantrum and the subsequent revocation of their support. I hate the idea of the ever patient, ever willing to teach queer that straight people seem to think encapsulates all of us. I am not your fucking encyclopedia. I am far too busy living my own life to attempt to educate you for hours on end without monetary compensation, or at least without the insistence constantly that I'm not being as nice as you want me to be. If you're
Not missing out on that lesson, so.
So interested, do a modicum of research yourself, and if you won't even do that, you're not actually interested.
See, this is a really interesting comment because I know the commenter didn't think about really what he was saying. He just wanted to leave a hate comment, which is fine. But my question is, why is being unhealthy a bad thing? First of all, obviously not all fat people are unhealthy, but let's say they were. What is the moral issue with being unhealthy? Why does that make you a bad person? Because that's how we get to the core of fat phobia, right? There is a moral assignment with the idea of being fat, whereas we associate thinness with good and fat with bad. But why is that? Why do you think being unhealthy and being fat is bad? There needs to be a...
So there's a couple ways that we can approach what she said, right? So let's go first at why is being unhealthy a bad thing? Well, being unhealthy and being overweight shows everybody, if you want to sit there and care about what other people think, that you can't take care of yourself. You're not disciplined. It affects, and that's part of why it could be a factor in why people that are overweight aren't hired nearly as much as people who are skinnier, who are more fit, because it shows that they don't have discipline and that they can't control themselves, or they just don't care. And if you do that in your personal life, what's to stop you from doing that at a job? So to go to the health part, if you are overweight, whether you have like intestinal problems or blood pressure problems or whatever, if you don't have those, it doesn't matter, you're still unhealthy because you're putting an unnecessary strain on your muscles, on your joints, just because you're carrying that extra weight around that your body was not designed to carry. And there's not an exercise for your bones and your joints that are going to regrow that bone or regrow that cartilage that you've damaged from the, X amount of time that you have been unhealthy and overweight. So, yes, there are people that are like, oh, they just judge you based on appearance, and obviously that's not okay. However, if you're talking about health, and there was another video that I saw, and it was this woman getting all bent out of shape because this guy was like, when I tell a patient that body positivity isn't gonna, stop their blood pressure problems, and so many people were getting offended because they're like, you'd think as a doctor, which I don't even think he's a real doctor, but you'd think as a doctor, you'd be more in tune with, society and the pressures of, obesity and like body positivity and all this stuff, and that would be a factor in the diagnosis. But here's the thing, so society and modern standards don't change the diagnosis of you having heart failure. You sitting there and manifesting good feelings and health doesn't do jack. All it does is make you feel a little bit better and make you look like an imbecile. So, there you go.
And you wonder why we don't trust these people. It happens every single time. Every single time. This is from today. This is from today. Yeah, no. Wasn't fat rep. Was not ever fat rep. Unapologetic fat actors forever. And
so she realizes that she's unhealthy and she's being bashed for it. Oh no, that's so horrible. She's improving her lifestyle.
And only till the end of time. This is boring.
I've seen this video before. I have, and it makes me so mad because I used to love her. I used to love Billie Eilish. She's a phenomenal vocalist. And then she did this, and I'm like, hon, come on. Smart business people and smart artists should do this, and not this. They should keep their politics out of their music and their opinions. Because what she effectively did with this is she cut off an entire audience of pro-life listeners. And I get it, she's got all this money, it's hardly going to affect her, but if your true purpose is to share a message with your music like hers used to be, you keep your politics out of it so that you can share it with everybody. And that's different if we're talking about like Christian artists, because that's what they are. she was like, okay, I'm making music so that I can describe how I'm feeling, working through depression, things like that. And so she's isolating all these people. And also just keep her mouth shut. I'm sorry, but nobody wants to hear it. Yeah, they paid to hear you sing. They didn't pay to hear you spout off politics on the stage in Texas, okay?
And I have to be honest with you that when they made that shit a law, I almost didn't want to do this show.
And they're so ignorant. They don't even do their research, because the Texas heartbeat bill put it in the hands of the citizens to enforce. They didn't make it a law against abortion at that point. It put it in the hands of the Texas citizens to enforce it. They didn't do anything. People could still go get abortions if they wanted. The only thing that they needed to be concerned about at that point is if there was somebody that knew them, or the father of the child didn't want it, he could sue her for it. So this is where that liberal saying, educate yourself, can be used, on a conservative front too, because you shouldn't open your mouth and spout crap like this if you don't know what you're talking about.
So, because I wanted to punish this fucking place for allowing that to happen here. But then, I remembered that it's you guys that are the fucking victims. And you deserve everything in the world. And we need to tell them to shut.
I'm not even going to listen anymore of that. We're going to wrap it up here. We're probably going to end up being around 15 minutes of footage. Thank you guys for walking with me through woke TikToks. There will be more videos to come. Thank you so much for joining. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and have a blessed rest of your day.
I've been running from the law.